Hello, and it's me, Moses Echodu, with the News River Sports for today. And we're going to talk particularly about resumption of sporting activities in Uganda. Now, recently, just about 2 weeks ago, that's the National Council of Sports did ask all the sports federations to send their SOPs so that they can start looking at how they can, plan with government to see that different sporting activities do get to resume in the country. But we also know for a fact that in Uganda, most of the different sporting disciplines actually are very dependent on the element of funds. So there is need for gate collections because that's a little money that they can get. Most of the different sporting activities in Uganda don't have funding, so or don't have sponsors that can actually pump in enough money. And when you look at the few that actually have sponsors, you're going to talk about basketball, you're going to talk about rugby that have Nile Special, you're going to talk about football that have Star Times, and of course some of these football clubs at the moment have really massive sponsors. You talk about Vipers, they have Hema Cement. Do they still have a sponsor? I mean, they don't. Hema Cement is no longer has been declared to be null and void in the country. So do Vipers have a club? I mean, a sponsor? Speaking of, does the Chadondo side, that is Heathens, have a sponsor as well? We might need to discuss that sometime. But when you look at Vipers, they have a sponsor. They have the likes of DHCU. They have the likes of Hima Cement, just like I've mentioned. You go to Express, they have Betway. You go to KCCA, they have StarTimes. They have MTN. They have Britannia. They have a lot of those sponsors. The same you could talk about at Wakiso Jazz. They have sponsors as well. The same goes to to AC Villa. They have their own sponsors. When you go to rugby, like I've said, Heathens, they have Heathens, they have the Hima Cement. Then you go to Legends, where you have Rimla, they have Shell. You talk about that is Cobbs, they have that is Stanbic. So they have Baitway, Stanbic, Easeway, the Pirates. So they have all these sponsors. Of course, it's majorly the big clubs that have sponsors. Impies, on the other hand, are struggling to make ends meet, but well, luckily for them, they have a very solid fan base that is willing to to inject money into them. But when you go back to sports, yesterday, National Council of Sports declared some of the sporting events that could make a return to activity, but they're saying, listen, this can be phased in short phases. Talk about tennis, talk about motorsport, and we all know that the Uganda rally, the Pearl of Africa rally, had been cancelled. Now that was supposed to be part of the African Rally Championship that was cancelled. So of course, now we're going to see the likes of the Ginger Rally, Mbarara Rally keep going on. This rally that happens in Mukono as well is going to happen. So probably now motorsport is going to start planning on how to come back. But we also know that motor rally in Uganda has a lot of fans. Now, unlike football that happens every single week, unlike rugby that happens every single week, basketball, rally happens once in a while, but when it does happens, it has a lot of fans that are always congested. Now, National Council of Sports has said that motor rally is not ideally a high-risk sport. What the high-risk sports that they have identified are rugby, football, basketball. I talk about American football, talk about baseball, and so those are some of the sports that I've identified as high risk. But the question is, what is really high risk? If you have motor rally that is always bringing thousands of people into one place, I would consider that to be high risk, unless you're going to say you're going to have your activities behind closed doors. Now, when you talk about having these activities behind closed doors, you're going to have a problem for many of the sports disciplines in the country. We don't have TV, we don't have sponsors that are going to really inject in money to allow for these different activities to actually happen. And even then, these sponsors will also want to be seen. They want viewership. But also, we know for a fact that majority of these big brands are not actually going to come out and pump money into the sporting disciplines, because even they are trying to recover from COVID-19. So where is the level ground? Football, rugby, basketball have been identified as high risk. I don't know about basketball, because for some games that are played at some games that are played at KIU, the level of social distancing that is there is probably second to none, because you can find one fan seated here, another one fan seated on the other corner, another the other corner, and the only people that are actually trying to bring the numbers in are the press people. So there's all that. A football could be said the same thing. Although we know that football has really, really massive numbers. If you're going to play a game at Kacheka Stadium in Nimbara, if you're going to play a game at that is Startime Stadium, there's a bit of more fans. The same could be said at AC Villa, but AC Villa plays at Nambole, and when you try and bring all the fans together, they can only probably fill one section. So you probably want to allow AC Villa to play and ask all the fans, listen, find a seat 50 seats apart, and they will still be able to to watch their game. But of course, we know that with COVID-19, many have not been able to watch their teams, and they probably want to watch. But then there's also the element of some don't have the money to go and pay for the entrance charges. The basketball, the same story. Rugby, on the other hand, though, could actually be where the potential risk is. But we also know that then you can actually emphasize the element of social distancing. We've seen at times when you go to that is Boegeri, Kings Park Arena, there's a lot of space, and fans can go and get their own seats. Tell them, listen, sit 4 meters aside apart. Let the arenas have. So I think it's upon the different federations now to come together and talk to the National Council of Sports to see how best they can work together and have this sports regime. We know for a fact that football is planning to resume on the 17th of October after the season had been cancelled, and now they're planning for the 2020-2021 campaign to begin next October. And the same goes for the big league as well, that will start around October. Then when you look at rugby, I think the time is fast running for them to finish the 15s rugby season. So now they're supposed to be planning for the sevens tournament, which also takes about 2 to 3 months. So you want to, as rugby as union, you want to start planning on, should we declare the season null and void? And but if you do declare the season null and void, give every team the 10 million shillings, because they have worked for that money.